I've forgotten the name of the chap. I should be giving him the credit, but he's Persian himself. And he's a secular academic in a way. If I think of the name, I'll give it to you. But it's the Persian Gulf, ancient Persia. How do you marshal, if you like, these alien states that are beyond your border of your empire? And those in your empire come to that. You give them a religion that's going to steer them in the right direction, but one that's within their grasp. I mean, there's no point in giving a religion to those that don't have ears to hear it. So you give them a suitable religion that they can hear. You know, Jesus pitches it in the story at a level at which those that are able to hear it can hear it, and develop accordingly. So you seed religion, you know, you seed Islam in North Africa for a nefarious reason in this particular case, because you wish to destabilize the regime back in Persia, but you know, so that you may regain what you had in the past. And that seems to have been the purpose. And similarly, you seed what we think of as Greek religion and Greek philosophy and Christian religion, which has really come from Greek philosophy of Plato, I argue. I don't mean it's purely that, of course, but in major substance it is. It's such a U-turn on Hebrewism. But Hebrew religion, again, was Persian influence to steer a neighbouring state, and so on and so forth. You know, when you get to a point where there's a dominant state in the world, in the modern world it's the USA now, in the ancient world, and therefore it's Hollywood, I might point out, and in the ancient world it was Persia, Babylon, if you like. And yes, over a long period of time, but I mean, its influence on the rest of the world is very conscious, very deliberate. You know, we send magi out, whether it's to Christianity or whether it's to Islam, or whether it's to, is it Macedonia? No, not Macedonia, whatever that Greek confederation was, you know, yeah. But of course, when I say Greek now, I actually conjure up pictures of the consequence of them doing so. But the land wasn't that before. Well, look, let's be realistic. This in itself is just a historicity, isn't it? And whatever the reality may have been, it certainly wouldn't have been as crisp as this, if indeed it wasn't something completely different, something even more fundamental that hasn't come to us yet. But it will do as a workable theory in the meantime, and in many ways, you know, ties up a lot of loose ends, makes what we see at present in our ignorance sense of the situation. And that's the best we can do as children till we mature a bit further. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Look, what do you think Abraham is? And where's he from? He's from Babylon, Ur of the Chaldees. Goodness gracious. This is not very Christian, is it? sounds like the harlot, doesn't it? Abraham is myth. Of course it's myth. He's one of the gods, isn't he, that came, from the east, the Magi. Sure, he came in substance, with his family, and he wouldn't have survived otherwise. It was a pretty barbaric, hostile country he's coming into. And he's strong enough to continue to survive. But the whole thing is story again. Just as Jesus is story. But you say Muhammad wasn't? No, but what he got was story. The Magi came to him too, mate. Organised him. Put his feet on the ground and made sure he became a mighty warrior. He's Joshua, isn't he? Muhammad. He's an upgrade on Joshua. And of course, Jesus is an upgrade on Joshua. He has the same name, Yeshua, Joshua, Yeshua, Saviour, Rescuer, the mighty man. Oh, except we turned him into God, of course. Well, we'll make mistakes. That was the Christian mistake. And so it is that what we take as stories refers to, of course, something to do with the spirit, not so much the world of, if you like, secular science, but spiritual science. What does all this civilization depend upon? Material technology, in one sense, from the material point of view. But no, spiritual understanding, namely values, truth, integrity, hope, creativity, love, life, being, survival, in other words. And I'm just recycling, aren't I now? You know what I mean. We are quite simply physically competent children. Oh dear. He's a brightie. But his foundation isn't right yet. He doesn't realise the importance of these values. And if we leave him unchecked, he'll kill himself. He's at risk. So we hedge him around. We put a gate up so he won't fall down the stairs. We put a gate up in the garden so he doesn't fall out into the street and under a car. We don't let him out of our sight except with someone that we truly trust to care for him as we would. We are fatherly, parental, motherly, whatever you like to call it. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean. And without such, we would be lost as children. So we surmise that God must exist, or we've had it. We're at too much risk to survive. And the conviction that he doesn't exist is an absolute disaster to us. And we find out the hard way. We come up against a wall. We have to choose choose you this day, whom you will serve. If you choose death, that's the end of the matter. If you choose life, you have hope, and by the grace of God, you will prosper. But it's all very uncertain from your point of view because you're a child. That's why you're in the universe of the transitory things. That all the mistakes and the learning can vanish into the past, but have distilled a mature, eternal, infinite member of the host of heaven in communion with our God. Always. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. There is no gain in believing anything other than this, as far as I know. But I'm a child, remember. Aren't we all? Bless you. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Do you see, because society made trivial creativity of things and power structures and so on possible, we think that we must perfect society to have perfect life. But that's not the case. We need to perfect what society depends on, which is integrity, holding together, trust, hope, if you like, conviction that the trust will hold. You know, I don't make a contract with you if I'm thinking that the gold you're swapping for the goods is possibly counterfeit. I don't make an agreement to have you mend my house if I think having paid you the house is going to fall to pieces and I bought a nothing, something of no worth. There's something much deeper than perfecting your society's system of politics and economics. It's down there at the roots, grassroots, but at the roots. What's giving the life? Oh, trust, truth, understanding, wisdom, faith and hope, love and care, concern, nurture, protection, the will to do such, underpinned by the hope and the trust. Yes, the wisdom, understanding as well, yes. Do you see, it's the things that we clump together and call of the Spirit. The seven candlesticks, if you like, you know, whatever. It doesn't matter how you pictured it. It's the truth of the matter that counts. Your society falls apart when your values are not recognized, not held, not your primary concern. You know, instead you're just maximizing your visible measurability, which apparently is GDP. How much goods and services you're producing. This is life, this is progress, this is success. And of course it's not. It's a complete illusion. It's an aggregation of the nominal value of transactions that are made by a variety of people in a variety of circumstances, each individually bringing their own understanding of value to the system, given There are extremely varied circumstances. The figure is meaningless. As in, your GDP is phenomenal in times of war, and your welfare is frighteningly low and possibly cataclysmic. In fact, even the world realizes that GDP is meaningless in times of war because much of the productivity is simply the consequence of the requisitioning by the central government, the military, and so on. I mean, do you look at the GDP during the First or the Second World War and infer a level, a quality of the standard of living accordingly? I don't think so. God dear. Millions of people are being wiped out. What sort of welfare is that? Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Look, to be practical, I mean, your current example, we saw China as so successful. Fantastic growth and output, GDP. Well, even if you told the truth about the matter of what GDP figure might be, given the way it's calculated, normally. And this figure was being produced by an incredibly vast population that was being immiserated with, less than 20% of the population having anything like what we take to be a good standard of living. I mean, that was a fantastic contrast to not having this middle class entrepreneurial development. But the average standard of living, appalling. And certainly the modal standard of living. Most people were, working 8 days a week and, living in poverty. Modern serfs to an economic system, with an elite taking the lion's share. But before you become too comfortable, that's what we have in the West as well. Oh dear. Oh dear. We're not as good as we hoped, are we? So the Jesus story, he comes that you might have life. True life. What's it to do with? Hope, trust, truth, faith, belief, peace, joy, creativity, compassion, love. You know the list. Thank God. Thank you, Dad. Yeah, the list is enshrined in the story, isn't it? How important stories and myths are. Thank you, Heaven.